Hello and welcome to another episode of a Wicked Parley. I'm your host, Justin, and my fellow co-host, Rose.
And then everybody.
Tonight we have a special episode, an episode full of laughter, tears, happiness. We're going to be talking about music, everybody. It's going to be great.
Whoop,
But,
whoop.
but before we get to talk about the music, there are some things that I want to bring up. First, if you haven't already, please like our video, please subscribe if you haven't, and please tell a friend about the show. We are literally dying for viewers. also, because of our need for wanting to develop better content, as well as also wanting to get to more people and send out our message, we have developed some extra stuff which you guys are maybe interested to take part in. For starters, we're developing a Discord, so that way if you guys want to chat with us, when an episode's not going on, or if you just kind of want to hear about some of the episodes that are in the pipeline, you can contact us, because we have a Discord, and that'll be featured in the normal contact information in the near future. Also, due to a demand for us to do some sort of video game live streams, we have created our own Twitch channel. And so we haven't put any stuff yet, and we have nothing exactly planned, but if there's certain games you'd like to see us play, shoot us an email, throw a suggestion at us, and maybe during the video about what you'd like to see us play, and you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, we'll put the links and stuff into the description maybe after the live stream.
Yeah, and Rose, are you excited to play video games while also talking about psychology?
I'm interested to see what video games they're gonna have us play.
I know. I mean, as long as
it's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No,
I'm kind of one of those people that will get way too involved into the video game. That's where my focus is. So we'll attempt to converse.
Yeah, and then I'll just pushing you, listen, Rose, come on, say something.
But I just want to murder.
No murder. Just say something. Oh God, I'm getting killed. I'm getting killed. Also, we're going to be having a TikTok that is going to feature some little funny gag stuff. Nothing's too serious at first, but who knows? We might find some gripping topics to share.
I already have an idea for the face of the TikTok.
Oh my gosh. You hear this? You hear what's going on, people? Rose is going to take it over. Oh, God.
Taking over TikTok.
Oh my God, yeah. We're going to conquer TikTok. We're going to be like the best. Also, when it comes to the episode for next Saturday, the Back to Basics episode, I'm going to be covering a plethora of psychological content. However, because of how vast the field of psychology is, and because I want to be, somewhat, I guess, appeal to you, the viewers, if you guys have any suggestions about something you specifically want to have discussed, so that way we can have further discussions about content relating to those specific things, feel free to email us or send it as a comment in the channel at some point tonight, and we'll collect it, and I'll make sure it's a part of the episode. It's already for the most part been kind of fleshed out, but I just want to make sure that we have your guys' input involved in that, because after all, you are the ones who support the channel, and we appreciate it oh so very much. Also, I'd like to say hi to Host. Thank you for once again appearing and always supporting the channel. You're very much appreciated. And Matthew, thank you for supporting the channel. Saying
hello.
That's what's up. All right, now that we've gotten all that fun shenanigans out of the way,
we have gotten our updates.
We got all of our updates. Is the chat excited about any of this stuff? Send us some messages. Is this a thing that you're like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm glad to see it? Or you're like, oh man, more shit I gotta watch? God damn it.
No. Oh no, not more programs.
Hopefully that's not the case. Anyways, so let's jump into it, all right? We're gonna be talking about music tonight. And I think the first place we gotta start when it comes to music is, how do you define it? So, I guess you guys have already figured this out, but question one is, how do you define music? You want to go ahead and throw up the definition there, Rose?
Funk.
You want to read it?
Yeah, let's see. We're going with this one, right?
Yeah, B.
Alright. 1B. Vocal, instrumental, or mechanical sounds having rhythm, melody, or harmony.
Okay, so first thing that jumps out at me, all right, is do you agree with that particular definition of music, Rose? Do you think that's all that encompasses music?
I think it covers a general basis, but I don't know if it covers everything. Like, yes, it's vocal, yes, some of them are instrumental, some of them are more mechanical, and then sometimes they have rhythm, sometimes they have melody, and then sometimes they have harmony. It's just a mix mash of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on which culture you come from, depending on how you're raised, I would imagine that music means different things. Like, this is the more... This is the more academic definition.
Or we call it the vanilla version. The whitewash edition definition.
I guess.
Oh my god. Okay. I can't believe she would have went with it. Okay.
Huh?
We're gonna act like everything's fine. Everything's fine, everybody. Everything's fine. She went along. Shh.
Sure.
Yes, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's good. It's totally good.
Loud noises.
Yeah, loud noises, banging sounds, just, screaming down the hall. Hi, Kyle. What's up, buddy? Anyways, so, when it comes to, oh man, upside down faces, all the upside down faces. That's not a psychological disorder, though. Does jazz have unity or continuity? Sure does. Sure does, Kyle. Sure does. Here's the thing here's why I have a problem with this particular definition, and it's just a small little problem. I've heard a lot of live music before, all right? And in the definition of live music, music is there. And I heard, when casually strolling the streets of San Francisco, I heard what was someone who was attempting to rap a story of his life. Clearly to his own tune, because there was no rhythm, no melody, no harmony of any kind. But clearly there was an attempt put forth. And I defy you to not call that music.
It doesn't make...
Huh?
Do you really want me to argue that?
I mean, technically speaking, the way this guy was communicating, I don't even think it was a vocal. I don't even think you could classify... there was no part of this classification that makes any sense from a definition standpoint. Because
the thing is, a lot of these terms are also perspective-based, too.
Oh, 100%. You're absolutely
So it's just like, what might not be music to you might be music to them. Like you said, he was doing this to his own tune.
Yeah, clearly his own tune.
Which is his own
out of his
rhythm.
ass.
Either way, that's still due to his own rhythm.
Joking.
So.
Yeah.
It's more of a perspective-based, so this one's just pure academic definition, but there's like other ways to define it, especially depending on how you were raised.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think at the end of the day, it's an art, which is kind of similar to the top definition. So I feel like if you're going to really give it a definition, I think A and B combined, that's the definition of music.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's just a matter of also choosing the and versus ors.
Indeed. Indeed.
So you find it to be more of an art form?
I totally do. 100%. Yeah. I mean, like, at the end of the day, I mean, music is an expression, right? Mm-hmm. Art is the ability to express what you think, feel, or see to an emotion in an emotional way. So absolutely, yeah, I think it's 100% art. I mean, how could it not be? A soundtrack for the mindless. Oh yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, for me, music's definitely an expression of art, but it's also a connection between people. Because there are some things that words alone cannot express, so you have to put it to a sound, you have to connect it with a sound, and music's able to express things that sometimes normal words can't. Or sometimes even music can express things without even using words, like instrumentals.
Interesting.
So it's just a form of connection because it does connect people together, whether that be the performer with the audience or the audience with each other when they listen to the same music, whether that be the same song or even the same genre, things like that. What's up?
Having some problems. Some technical difficulties. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're gonna be okay.
I should have brought the technical panda.
Don't worry about the technical panda. Oh my god. All right, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're back.
All right.
We're back. All right. Anyways, so let's go ahead and throw up the. Actually, before we even go past this, I just want to kind of not to shock everyone, but before we go to a question, we're gonna actually go to music, and then from the music we're going to let the music kind of set up the question or the statement. So just without further ado, we're going to play the first of the wonderful things, but do make sure to mute Cappuccino.
Right.
Yes. Okay, everybody. This was the first example of a question that leads into kind of a whole series of discussions. So would you mind throwing up to question 2?
How is music used in different cultures?
Yes.
You're absolutely getting copyright striked. Yep, we did.
1000%. It's fine.
Oh boy.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
I don't really care about the copyright strike. It's just the whole getting the stream banned thing, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Anyways. So, yeah. So that right there is J-Rock, is an example of J-Rock. So the question is how is music used in different cultures? Music is often a way to be able to express oneself, as we've kind of mentioned before with the previous example. But also, it's a way for a culture to be able to share an idea or concept with another culture. And, in certain places, like in Japan and Korea, they have music that's very reminiscent of what's over here in the U.S. And that is an example of J-Rock. What do you have to say about this?
Well, it's definitely a different form of entertainment than what people are used to, just because, again, different culture, they do different things. Mm-hmm. But again, it does take from certain cultures. I definitely agree that it's a form of expression. It's also, depending on the culture, they use it for different things. One's for expression. Well, they're mostly all for expression. Mm-hmm. One's for more emotional expression. There are some for more artistic expression, whether some people even use music, I believe, to share stories or pass them down. Mm-hmm. Rather than oral storytelling, it's storytelling through song or even lessons. Or at least that's what I understand of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's definitely something that's fair to say. I mean, like, different cultures kind of take in different music and are able to kind of like have their own twist on certain other cultures' concepts and ideas around music. So yeah, mm-hmm. I mean, that's 100% real.
Yeah, I think we actually cover that in more detail in a later question, I think.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
All right, do you want to move on to the next song?
Yeah.
I think everyone will recognize it.
And hold that one up. Goodbye, number 2. We're moving on to the next one.
The next thing they'll add to copyright strikes. Oh my god, would you get copyright strike for that one?
Well, not that you know of.
All right, thank God. Anyways, so, yeah, what's the question?
How does music become diverse enough to be accepted by a diverse set of individuals? God, I sound so pompous.
Only slightly. Only slightly.
Only slightly.
Only slightly.
Hopefully only slightly. Who knows? Sound like this pompous prick.
Yeah. So when it comes to how does music become diverse enough to be accepted by a diverse set of individuals, mm-hmm. I would have to imagine that music that is all-inclusive is probably music that's going to be appealing to, more people. I mean, if it's got a whole bunch of different concepts involved in it, then it's easier to latch on and kind of build on. So that way, you can kind of have an almost pop culture-based identity. And I think a lot of people, especially adolescents, have this concept of wanting to be like what they see. And because they're acting in a way that's like what they see, then they use pop culture and media, particularly music, to help create and define their own particular type of ideas of self. And so in those particular ways, I think the more diverse your music can be, the more likely it'll be accepted by a wider range of individuals, which I think is what this question is trying to get at.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. The more relatable it is to people, or the more that people can relate to the song in question, definitely has a factor in the entire scheme of it.
Do you think
and
that...
Definitely.
Oh, what I was going to say is, do you think that there's an example that you could see that for yourself that would be akin to this?
I would need to think on that. Okay. I don't have a large musical library. I typically just find a song and have it put on repeat for like days at a time.
Okay.
So I don't have a diverse library, not compared to ones like yours or other people's that for that matter.
Don't even get me started with my musical library. It
Yeah, I
started off
know.
small. It started off so small, and now it's like
But
thousands.
I would think any anybody who can find a song that can relate to having a bad day and trying to get past it, I
Mhm,
think almost everybody can really relate to that one because everybody does have bad days.
mhm.
You kind of have to have bad days to have good ones. Doesn't mean we like it though.
Yeah.
But songs that are relatable just kind of let people know that there are others like them out there. They're not alone in how they feel.
Hmm.
So that's what really appeals to a bunch of people, or at least in my opinion it would. It definitely appeals to me.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know that, like, there are songs that are, actually, specify this also. There are soundtracks that are developed with the idea of passing on a message to individuals. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time is got to be the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and Volume 2 playlists. And it's because I think that, like, they take this mesh of great, like, 70s late 70s music and kind of put it together in a way that
Mhm.
it almost tells a story. And I think that a lot of people can just read into songs and be able to kind of latch on to certain concepts and ideas and
Mhm.
add to those particular things. And then they kind of can compare their own lives to what some of the lyrics and songs can be, or maybe even the mood that that song puts them in.
Oh yeah, definitely. There are playlists that are all about like what type of mood it puts people in, whether it's a nostalgia trip, whether it's a party, whether it's a chill at the beach, relaxation,
Hmm.
tons of things that people can relate to or want to be in the mood for.
Yeah. Do you think that like it's a common thing for like certain age groups to be like this, or do you think that when you know they're talking this question how it says diverse set, do you think it means diverse set meaning all walks of life, all age groups, all demographics, or is it speaking to a specific subgenre?
The question itself or music in general?
The question itself, what do you think it's geared towards more?
How does music become diverse enough to be accepted by a diverse set of individuals? I think just the way it's worded, it's more geared towards certain subgenres and whatnot. But just because the whole it's it's diverse enough to be accepted by a diverse set of individuals, it makes it seem like it's nitpicking certain sets.
Do you have a
When
set in mind?
hmm,
Do you have like a specific set in mind?
it might be just of the fact that sometimes music is catered towards certain groups, whether that be age groups, certain demographics, and whatnot.
Hmm.
It just so happens that some of them, while they're more geared towards those sets, they can also be related to by other demographics that they weren't originally gunning for to begin with.
Okay.
It just depends on how the society kind of changes over time because
Mhm.
there are obviously some songs that, while not popular in one time period, became extremely popular later, or vice versa.
Yeah. And chat, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that a question like this is geared towards a specific genre, or is it all genres? And clearly, Matt is very into Michael Jackson. Well, let's move on to the next song, and hopefully, we'll see some questions pop up in the chat.
Yeah, let's go. Bum bum. Ooh, I like this one. Ain't it pretty?
Yeah. Don't copyright us. Don't hit us.
Oh, we're absolutely getting hit with the strikes, no doubt about it.
Oh, 1,000%.
100,000%.
Oh
We're
yeah,
just,
we are not getting
it's not even a
monetized.
question at this
This is not
point.
a monetized episode in any way, shape, or form. This is 100% getting hit by us. And I don't care. It's for
Alright,
you
this one
guys,
was
the viewers.
this one.
Yes. Okay, so read it.
Mhm.
Go for
When
it.
people migrate from country to country, how often do they bring their cultural and musical tastes to the new location?
Oh my god, all the time.
I would imagine a lot of the
Oh
time,
my
yeah.
god, like all the time. Are you kidding me? Like, alright, so like, I have to imagine there was somebody
Had contemplated music. Oh.
Sad contemplative music. No, Kyle. It's not sad. It's like peaceful. You know, it's like imagine you have a long day, you know, and you just come back and you're just like, oh God, this day sucked. I just need like, you know, a nice warm Earl Grey tea, a nice good book, and some good thought-provoking music. There you go, Moonlight Sonata. Now it's only sad if you make it sad. It could be incredibly peaceful. It's all about what's up here and what you put into it.
Makes me want to go to bed.
Me too. That's one of the wonders of music. Anyways. Honestly, to this question, though, absolutely. I think everybody brings their own particular culture and the music associated with that culture, forgive the crazy poofy hair, into their particular locations. I mean, I think that, pianos, they get spread around the West and obviously on the East Coast. And those, where they come from? Europe. It's like, yeah, we do that all the time. We share music. I mean,
so much.
I would be hard pressed to believe that the trumpet came from here. It's definitely way super old. Where the trumpet came from, I couldn't say, but it definitely did not originate here. In fact, I would imagine most musical instruments are not original to here. I mean, you could maybe argue the microphone.
The what?
The microphone, maybe. But, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine, like pretty much this happens up every single time, not only just because people are migrating from country to country. So some people get homesick. They take a little bit of home with them, so they always have it. So that's part of their culture, that's part of their music. And then once they meet people, once they meet people, they want to share part of their home with the people they meet to, be able to talk about their home with people, share a little bit of home with them so that they can spread their knowledge and essentially their emotional attachments to the people they meet, especially if they end up making close friends. You'd want to share what you like with them.
Yeah, or if you get married and, you you want to share your partner a piece of your homeland, there's how you can share a piece of homeland.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of one of the more easy things, especially nowadays when you've got so many CDs, digital media, whatnot.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And also, like, on top of just those particular things, imagine if you are a person who is, you've never heard this foreign music before, but yet it's interesting, and you just happen to come near it. It could change your whole perspective and want to add something to the already giant pot of interesting culturally based music.
So nuts.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's tons of ways things can happen. I mean, you could be looking for that new sound, like in Back to the Future. Anyways. It's a silly joke.
We've got a similar question next, I think. But first. First up.
Okay, this was going to be a long one, and we're 1,000% going to get hit with a strike. So.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely getting hit with a strike. I don't know what we're going to do with it after the live stream. We might mute it, we might keep it. Just depends.
Yeah, after the live stream, probably mute it. Just heads up.
Huh?
We're going to mute it. Black screen. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way to mute the copyright stuff later.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah. Only for the current viewers, they will be able to hear the sound, but it's not like I'm gonna put the links anywhere.
Yeah, so if you want to actually listen to it, always click the links.
Yeah, click the links once the video actually finishes processing.
Okay, well, that was an interesting little piece of we definitely got hit.
We definitely got hit, it's just because it's not gonna show up anymore because I already clicked out of the first time.
Okay.
Let's see, that was number 5. I can count? No, I can't right now.
Yes, you can. 100% can.
All right. How often do people travel to foreign countries and bring that country's music back to their own?
Oh my God. Once again, all the time.
Unless you just don't have the room in your suitcase sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that are kind of important about that particular clip that I think is kind of interesting to kind of nitpick out of there. Oh my God, how sexualized certain music has become. Like,
It really do be like that though.
yeah, I mean, like there is some serious, interesting content going on there. Also, I thought it was kind of fascinating that like in that particular clip, right, you have all sorts of different interactions going on. You know, from children to old people playing like dominoes, yeah, to like youth kind of like in the midst of. What we're gonna call it a dance. We're gonna call it a dance.
Like typically, whenever you see those music videos, they've got one type of demographic, whether that be mostly older people or mostly younger people or mostly adolescents
Yeah,
or young adults.
absolutely. And in that one, at least I felt it was kind of interesting that you kind of see kind of like a wide demographic. And I think that that's something that is kind of true in a lot of different kinds of music that's, international that I've noticed. Especially the ones that are not trying to imitate the U.S. You definitely see a more diverse background involved in their music videos. And also it's kind of more of an artistic kind of like look. And so because of those particular things, you kind of have, I would say, a unique perspective added to their particular videos, which I think is inherently valuable. That's missing from modern music, at least in the U.S. Today.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing how people kind of portray the people that are in the music videos, whether they be the vocalists, the any performing dancers or whatever, or even just the stand-ins.
Also, I think the types of instruments that are used, internationally are not they're not going to be uniform to what we might expect. I mean, like if you're in India, I think there's like the satire, what the hell? No, that's not the right way to say it. I don't know. The funny stringed instrument that kind of looks similar to a guitar.
Don't
There's a
ask
few of
me.
those.
There's a couple of them. There's quite a number of them.
Yes. Yeah, but like I think that like depending upon the type of music, it's going to depend on different things. I think also the different kinds of drums that are used are going to be different depending upon different regions. I mean, there's also like electronic drums and stuff like that that are used nowadays that sometimes don't have like an authentic quality to them, which in my particular opinion adds extra depth to a song, just as an example. But yeah, I mean, I think definitely like people, when they travel, I mean, especially if they like a place, they always try to bring pieces of that place back with them. And I think music is one of those things that's easily kind of like, exported.
Yeah, especially with the digital music nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, digital music is definitely one way.
Granted, the CDs aren't too hard unless you really pack your suitcase full.
And then if you pack your suitcase too full, you're like, oh, God, it's broken. It's so broken.
Sad days, sad days.
It really is.
But yeah, I would imagine that if people like a place, they'd want to share that culture with the people they have back home. Maybe get them involved, maybe get them to visit so they can also show them around. Why not? It's also just kind of adds to the whole tourism aspect of traveling and just sharing cultures with each other and integrating them into different aspects of your life or other people's life, depending on who you bring it back to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Asian rock, and so if I ever went to Japan, I'd be like, I'm coming back with like a mountain of CDs.
Hey.
All the J-rock, all of it. Probably other stuff too.
Just depends.
Definitely. All right. So, is there anything else you guys say about this particular question?
Not particularly, although I'm kind of curious as to the explanation for the next question we've got.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. But before we get to that, chat, if you have a question or an opinion to say about this particular thing of any kind, other than fart to bun, then please go ahead and share it. And definitely, I agree with different music for different moods, Matt. Spot on.
Yep.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for the chat to respond to that, let's go ahead and throw the next music that's going to get us strike again.
This one's actually not a music one.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. This is not a music one, is it? This is actually a list of top 50 songs.
Oh. So, we'll just throw this so that people can start thinking about it. But what do the top 10 songs say about a generation or even a culture state? So, like the top 10 songs in a region, what might it say about that current time period or that current generation of people who are listening to it.
I personally think that, like, when it comes down to it, right, the type of music that a culture, it makes popular, we'll say, it really speaks to the identity of the majority, or at least the people who have the loudest voice in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like temperament where the mood is at. I mean, definitely you could make a statement to say that during the height of the Vietnam War, all of those protest songs that were constantly prevailed throughout that particular genre when it comes to music, shows the fact that people were unhappy with that particular situation and were seeking ways of actively changing it. And by talking about it in their music, there was a way to send a message to all people pretty much forever, for as long as that music's around, that this time was a time that was bad and a time that the people who were young didn't agree with.
Definitely a way to get across an opinion without, outright protesting.
Yeah. I mean,
because sometimes that gets you in trouble depending on what area you're in.
Yeah, or you could look at like swing music in like the 1920s, and you're like, yeah, it's all a big party.
Woo woo! Okay, we're gonna throw a top 50 list here. Again, it's mostly opinion based.
It's
mostly opinion based.
Yeah, it's a top 50 of what is, according to the Rolling Stone, I believe, magazine. I want to say it's Rolling Stone's magazine, of the top 50 most iconic songs like of all time. The thing that I kind of like take issue with when it comes to this particular list is that these top 50 songs, I first of all cannot possibly imagine is like the number one most iconic song, because there's no way that every generation is going to look at Smells Like Teen Spirit and be like, that was an iconic time. I don't think, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nirvana, great band. Grunge rock, great genre, all right? But it doesn't speak to everybody. And I don't even think it speaks to most people. Like, it's not even that it's a bad song or bad genre. I just don't think it's the most iconic thing ever. I mean, if I was going to throw...
What type of song is this one?
Huh?
What type of song is that one?
I mean, it's like a grunge rock. It's part of like the subgenre grunge, and then it's kind of rocky.
Okay.
You could think grunge is kind of like a more specific punk rock. But I would call it lazy rock, but I would get people pissed. I don't want to say disrespectful things, so I choose not to. I plead the fifth.
Okay. But yeah, for these like top 50, how do you think they actually are determined? Do you think they're like determined by a voting system, just by what's been bought the most?
I think
by what's been bought over time?
I think it probably is. It's probably like like the top 10. Like who was the most bought, single or most bought, CD of a particular artist over time, and then they're just calculating it out. But I think that's a poor way to demonstrate popularity, just because some songs on here didn't have the same type of distribution that was possible of songs that were produced in the 80s and 90s. And so
like which ones?
Well, Johnny B. Good, although, is super popular primarily due to its second coming, because it was featured in the Back to the Future movie in the 80s. But before the Back to the Future movie, only people who were really into early rock and roll would have known anything about Johnny B. Good. And so I would say that's an example of one of when it came out. It definitely was popular, super popular, but like it's not like money, is the same. I mean, how much?
There it is. Found it.
Yeah, number 33 on this list. Another song that's kind of like an example of that I can imagine is probably any one of the Beatles songs, just because like the Beatles had so much music that were all featured they were always in the top 10 when they were around. Like if they weren't number one all the time, they were like, or they had a bunch of songs. In fact, I think the Beatles hold like one of the records for having the most songs in the top 10, like consecutively, like or something like that. Like, and anyways, but there's a whole bunch of different things that are on here. So there's no way that this entire list is in order. I think that this is just kind of like a list of people that are like, oh, we're going to throw this on here.
Yeah, not to mention a lot of them seem English.
Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of like, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. There's a lot of just American performers.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be
and
foreign.
a rock kind of like. I I mean, there's some pop here and there. I mean, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean is a pop song. It's not a rock song. I don't care what anyone says. But
Yeah, like I can't recognize any real, well, according to the US, foreign songs on here.
yeah, I'm not seeing any right now. But then again, I haven't like 100% gone through it. But nothing's jumping out at me as, oh my God, this is,
Mm-mm.
I mean,
Doesn't
like,
help that they're all in English.
well, here's the thing. Like, some of those bands aren't American bands. Obviously, the Beatles is from England, but
Yeah.
and Elton John, English, But I mean, for the most part, what I would say is they're Western songs. Is what when I say that, I mean, when I say English, I mean Western.
Okay.
That's kind of an important one to say. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of diversity here. There's just kind of a lot of just rock and pop and American and we'll say British music here, and it's not that it's bad. It's just I'm not so sure that it's the thing that everyone identifies with. Because like, could you imagine some guy who's like, let's say like, I don't know. I don't even see, that's the other thing. I don't even know what other cultures 100% would even identify with. I mean, because I would imagine that, like, say you lived in Africa, there's probably artists that are performing in Africa that are very popular over there that those people would identify with, and very few people would know too much about American music when it comes to like a wide range. I mean, like, I'm sure Michael Jackson, 100% people know. Everywhere around the world, huge. But like, there's some people, like, I mean, I cannot imagine that Oasis, a band like Oasis, is around the world. I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, it seems more like localized, region-wide, region-specific top tens. So I'm curious to wonder what somebody would claim would be top 50 around the world songs list would be.
Yeah, I bet that one would be really difficult, but also really interesting. I would love that particular top 50.
Yeah, I would like
top
maybe
50.
We can...
Just top 50, like I want top 50 around the world. You know what, chat? Yeah. What would you say is in your top 10, and how many of them are from a Western perspective? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Australia technically still Western.
Maybe we can find it and check that out on like a return episode or something.
Yeah, definitely. If anyone's interested, email the show. Hey, Wicked Parley.
You know what to do.
.com. Yes. You do know what to do.
All right.
Email the show. Anyways, but like, back to the question though. I mean, what does it say about a generation and the state of the culture? Well, I think if you look at that particular list again, I mean, you just think about like the songs that were on there, and think about how those particular songs probably spoke to those people. Probably if you're of a younger demographic, your parents, or you grew up during and listening to those music. Hard to say. I mean, I know we have a pretty wide age range when it comes to our viewers. So. Hey.
Yeah, but definitely depends on how you were raised or what you essentially lived, because a lot of music taste can either be extremely similar to your parents, or if you're a rebel, extremely different.
Okay, all right, here's the thing though. If you were going to think about a rebel song, right? What's the ultimate rebel song?
I don't know. I would imagine it's like the complete opposite of what your parents listen to.
Okay, well that's sort of rebellious. I can see where you're going with that, but like. I'm
or take whatever song genre they hate and you just hit it.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, iconic rebel song is like, Billy Idol, Rebel Yell. I mean, that's a great rebel song,
Like, I didn't even mean rebel as in just rebel.
Oh, I know.
Doing the exact opposite of whatever.
I was just playing around. I know.
On the words. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, play with words. Da 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 da.
I don't relate with puns.
Yeah. So, what do we have as the next song?
Bonk. Bonk.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
Get bonked.
Get bonked. All right.
I know it's not in this clip, but I wonder it looks like... How many sounds can you make with those strings?
I don't know, but is it bad that I'm thinking about Chinese food?
No.
Or Rush Hour 2?
I mean, sometimes music just makes you feel certain things, and sometimes it just relates to it also brings you back to their food.
Yeah. Orange chicken.
Now I'm hungry.
Shoot corn.
But this sound is really pretty. I like it.
Yeah, it really is pretty. All right. And also her
Yeah.
like crazy bright pink like dress thing is also very appealing. So
You gotta stand out against the darkness, you know?
yeah, that's one way to stand out. All right.
Alright, let me just double check here. Yeah. How does specific music relate to the individual and how it can affect that person's mood or temperament?
Yeah.
Well, we found out one way that reminded us of food.
Yeah, definitely.
We're also very food oriented, so well, I'm definitely food oriented, so I will wholeheartedly out myself on that. Panda,
Oh my
you know
gosh.
what? Sometimes on a bad day, Panda's really good.
Yeah, it is. Or sometimes you just get sick. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Honestly, like when it comes down to it, like I think that like this is something that's really impactful. It's kind of important, and we're going to come back to some parts of this later. But I think that the way in which a person's mood can be affected by music is the fact that it changes the way in which your overall body relates to the rest of itself. Um, there are definitely like levels of soothing things that can affect the way in which you might be. So if you're in a particularly agitated mood, you're in a very upset kind of situation, if you listen to some music that is soothing, kind of like the music that we just played, or maybe if you like the Beethoven we played earlier, those types of music have a calming effect on the body and on the nervous system. So you can kind of have like a reduction in overall fatigue as well as bodily pain. And in those particular ways, it can completely change the way in which you look at certain circumstances and situations. And so, like if you go from being extremely agitated, and then you listen to some calming music, then you might be more able to be understanding, even if you were just agitated, based upon the music you were just listening to.
Most definitely. It also just changes kind of the atmosphere, especially if you're able to have it on a speaker and rather than through a headset. Granted, some people prefer headsets because it's more centralized on your head.
See, I personally like to blast my music, so like I don't want to have some contraption on my head. Like, you have no idea. The first upgrade to this whole setup is going to be the removal of these headsets. The first major upgrade. It's just like, oh my god, it's going to be so great. I'm going to be at a
We're
desk.
working on it.
I'm going to be at a desk. There's going to be a globe. There's going to be something nice in the background, and I'm going to be talking to you in a suit. It's going to be awesome, and you guys are going to have a good time because I'm going to make you laugh and laugh. You got to watch yourself because you might piss yourself. Because, oh my god, before I check yourself, I said that wrong. I meant to say it differently. Ignore me.
Ay, take a water break.
Brought to you by Kirkland. Justin takes a sip of water. Kirkland, the only water I trust.
But
Damn
yeah,
you, Crystal Geyser.
But as for the music and how it can affect a person's mood or temperament, depending on how loud you play it, it'll definitely change the atmosphere of the room. Sometimes you have a just pure silent room, and sometimes to quite a number of people that is very agitating, frightening. I don't know whatever negative words can come from it. So sometimes people just have to fill the room with music, and as soon as they put on a particular song, no matter what song is played, depending on the individual, it just changes the atmosphere, changes the entirety of the ambience of the room, I suppose.
Do you have like an example that you could use to kind of highlight this particular thing?
So I'm a little hermit, and I stay in my room a lot. But then I mostly listen to things on a headset. Very rarely do I unplug my headset, unless I'm cleaning my room. That's another story. But I'll exit my room, and my mom's blasting something from the living room computer. Completely different music, but it's what relaxes her. And if I pay attention to it, it actually does change my mood a bit because it's usually much different than the music I listen to.
What kind of music is that?
Huh?
What kind of music
Her
is that?
music is more calm with the Chinese musical instruments. Mine is more techno.
Yeah.
Techno pop type of scenario.
Okay.
So it's kind of widely different.
Yeah, that's a pretty different sound. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like her music makes me want to like chill, slow down when I'm a little gremlin, whereas my music I just want to kind of hop around the room like a rabbit, much like my picture. Just go tink, 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 tink. But yeah, it can absolutely change a person's mood or temperament depending on how you hear it, too.
That's as different as, like, you know, a Stromboli to, like, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
What the?
Hey, they're completely two different foods, but I am hungry right now. Damn you, Chinese food music!
What the? Did you just call it Chinese food music?
No, I didn't. I am not racist at all. I'm not. I swear I'm not. I actually really like that kind of music.
Alright, before we dig ourselves into a bigger hole here.
What hole? Why did it get dark all of a sudden?
Oh, did it actually?
No.
I was about to say, that's some messed up timing.
Oh my god.
We have a bit more info specifically about this for the next question, so.
Yeah, we'll be touching on this a little bit more.
Yep.
So, what is the next music?
Bum ba-da-dum bum bum bunk.
Okay. So, what was the question that goes along with that?
Bunk bunk. How can music affect a person physically, emotionally, or even mentally? I really wanted to say mentally for a hot minute there.
Mentally!
It's like, yes, mentality makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. First of all, oh my god, that song. Oh my god. That's like my mantra. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like how I live my life, or at least I aspire to live my life. Because god damn it, is that like not like so true?
Yes, YouTube, we know you've detected
Yes,
copyrighted
you have detected
audio.
multiple
Shush.
things. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine.
Alright. But yeah, besides the things we mentioned earlier, we've got...
I see the question. Let's answer this one, then we'll get to that question.
I wasn't talking about that question.
Oh, you're not talking about Quile? Cal?
No, I'm talking about the one we've got on screen.
Oh, good. Okay, then. Never mind.
Ay, caramba.
Ay, caramba! Oh, no! Ah! Okay, go for it.
So besides what we mentioned earlier, you've got... let's see. I am losing every single train of thought I've got, and I don't have that many trains. Hold on.
Oh my god. Yeah, fasten those locks, people. We're in for a long ride.
So sometimes it can affect a person physically, like, you know, with my earlier example of me going from wanting to bounce along every single wall imaginable like a little freaking rabbit to wanting to actually chill, you know, lay down on the floor, maybe be a freaking turtle cat like last episode. So some people actually, I know I've used certain sounds and music to wake up to and other ones to go to sleep, so those are some other physical things. Emotionally, mood changers, whether that be YouTube's shut up, whether that be calming down, pumping myself up for whatever event, such as if I was competing or joining a game with the friends where I get to be a murder hobo. Mentally, it can also deal with a bunch of certain messages, whether depending on how much a person reads into the song. Because sometimes, a lot of the times you can find messages in music, and then there are other times where it's just music.
Sure, yeah.
But what do you think?
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna break this into each one of these things. I'm gonna kind of expand upon what you just said. So when it comes to how does music affect someone physically, outside of the obvious components of the physicalness, when it comes to, like, say, going to sleep or waking you up, physical elements could range from dances. I mean, physical stuff can have to do with imparting something that's culturally significant to another person in a very physical way by getting them involved in playing a music or performing in some way. Physically as well, the other implications of how music can directly affect someone is it can shape the way a person approaches thinking about the world. And that sounds like a strange concept, but yeah, I mean, if a person is exposed to particularly violent music, then there's a tendency to think that the world might be more violent than it actually is, or be less violent depending upon the type of music they're exposed to.
Some of those music videos.
Oh yeah, seriously. Or if you just think that if you could just go out to out to a party every single time you want to go out to go to a beach, you're like, yeah, that's not real. Sometimes water's cold. You ain't dancing to that.
Friggin' freezing the further north you get.
Yeah, do not go into the Pacific. Anything north of like San Francisco, you will freeze. It's cold.
Even in San Diego, it's not that completely warm.
Oh yeah. So when it comes to emotionally, I think that there's a lot of things that are intrinsically connected to music. I mean, if you're a small fetus and you're in your mama still, and your mom is listening to some sort of music, there's a pretty good chance that if you're developed to a certain point, that you're actually going to have a predisposition to that particular type of music later in your life. Music has a whole bunch of different ways in which you can physically connect, but there's also an emotional connection that's also linked to that physical condition. And so an example of this might be like if a person is looking at certain elements of their life, maybe in a positive, people will have like a photo album that they put music to. I know during my high school graduation, there was a song done by Green Day called September.
Mm-hmm.
And there was pictures of some of the time of all the students, that were graduating, kind of playing like a collage or like a flip through a photo book to that particular sound. And it's something that I'll never forget because it was kind of like, holy crap, that song kind of like just like explained my high school like days in a way that I did not agree with. And I got very emotionally mad about that.
I was wondering where this is going.
Yeah, I was very internally upset.
Good, or is this emotionally angry?
No. I was upset by it because I'm like, I like Green Day, but that song, I could pass on that. And it definitely doesn't like apply to me when it comes to an emotional level. And so I didn't really like the way in which that particular thing was done. But I can definitely see how certain people will develop certain ideas about, how do I put this? Certain melodies. Certain melodies will make a person either incredibly upset or incredibly calm or something else altogether. More specifically to emotionality is the fact that often couples have certain songs that's their song, and it's what speaks to them as a couple and something that they automatically can defer to whenever they hear it, and it kind of brings them together. And so there's lots of ways music can affect someone emotionally. Now, yes.
So you mentioned that the whole songs. This is probably the wrong episode for this, but like if couples have certain songs that bring them together, what do you think happens to that particular song if they ever split up?
I can tell you what that is.
Uh-oh.
What's the
I don't know.
part?
Like the tone was just like I can tell you exactly what happened.
Okay, so I was in a really long relationship. For those who don't know this, I was in a really long relationship, like a really long relationship, like almost 10 years, and it came to an end very suddenly, and I was, we'll say, upset about it for, well, a pretty long time. And there was a song that we had.
Yeah.
I'm not going to share the song.
Fair.
But
this is freaking personal. Fair.
Yeah. But whenever that song comes on, it reminds me of her still.
Oh.
And so it's like, what do you do when that song happens? It's like now you have something that's tortures you for the rest of your life. And so it's depending upon, at least for me, my particular concept of it is that this song used to be a song I really liked. And then it became a song I now dread like the plague.
Oh.
In fact, honestly, I would rather, if I could choose a week-long flu of like the worst flu symptoms ever, or have to have this song continually exist in my world, I would take the week-long flu symptom just to get rid of it forever.
Well, dang, that's definitely an emotional effect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little upsetting.
Kind of goes into the mentality, doesn't it?
It does, because certain songs definitely have a depressive effect on things, just as much as certain songs have an energetic tone to them. I mean, I don't know anyone who can listen to Queen particularly "We Will Rock You" and not be at the very end, be like, we will rock you. Yeah, I did a terrible job right there, and I did it on purpose because I'm awful at singing. Don't make me do it. I choreograph all the
my
time.
arms several times over doing that.
That's horrible. No one can see you. So it's solely for my benefit. You break yourself for my benefit. How sweet.
That's one way to take it.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's one way. For all you guys who couldn't watch, she raised her arms really fast and like kind of like that little like, you know, the crack thing with her arms, like as she did it, and it's just like, yeah, okay. We broke her. We broke her, people. We broke her.
So many crackers.
Anywho, I think I answered the question.
You went into a bit of it, yeah. I kind of distracted you because of the question about the...
Yeah. I will get to Kyle's question, though.
Yeah.
Do people need music? And if so, are deaf people living in an incomplete life? Yes, I do think people do need music. I think music is one of the primary ways in which people express themselves, and it is a completely unique medium. And so if you are deaf and you are absolutely unable to hear music, then yes, I think you're missing a key element to life. I think in the same way that a blind person is not able to understand and be able to appreciate the appearance of artwork, I think in the same way a person who is deaf cannot appreciate the beauty of the art of songs and music. Mm-hmm. And I feel truly sorry for those whom suffer from those particular circumstances.
There's an amazing story of a woman who her discipline was music. Mm-hmm. She wanted to become a performer, mm-hmm. and she was going to school for it. She was majoring in it. Mm-hmm. The story was essentially she was going into an exam, and the exam was that as soon as you started hearing the music, you would write down your thoughts about it and whatnot. I can't remember the exact details. Mm-hmm. And that was the last thing she heard.
Oh my gosh.
She was starting to become deaf, and that instruction was the last exact thing she heard. Oh she couldn't hear the music, but she was seeing people leave one after the other. So she was heartbroken because, again, music was essentially her dream. Mm-hmm. And it took a while. Parents were absolutely devastated because they knew how much she loved it. She trained herself to get back into music, and she actually performed on a Got Talent show. Mm-hmm. I can't remember whether it was America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent. Mm-hmm. But she ended up getting a golden buzzer because the song she made was about how, if I remember correctly, she made the song specifically to try to pick herself up because she wanted to do more with her life than just give up, because she didn't want to give up music. She wanted to do more than that. So mm-hmm. that was her song. That was essentially her kind of fight song.
Well, that's great. I mean, mm-hmm. It's definitely an inspirational story. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely kind of sad when you think about what people with certain disabilities are missing. Mm-hmm. Deaf people can't hear all the sounds that we take for granted, just as blind people can't see all the colors that we take for granted. It's when you don't have something that you start to realize just how much you kind of need it, want it, miss it when it's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's great that this is wholly off topic. That's extremely depressing, but also very amazing. It is. Yes. It made me so sad, but it made me so happy when she was able to pick herself up.
It just shows that the human spirit is important and very strong, and even if something horribly knocks you down, you can still pick yourself back up. Mm-hmm.
So we're wholly off topic, but like that question reminded me of that video specifically.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into the next question, or more music per se.
Oh, this is a loud one. Mm-hmm. Alrighty then.
All right.
Yeah. How does media use music to manipulate an individual's psyche?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing that's important to understand is that music is always trying to speak to a specific subgroup of individuals. Now, whether that particular group of individuals is a youth, or maybe it's a political, or maybe it's like a young adult or adults, it's always trying to speak to that. And in that way, there is subtle things that are made to grab on or get the attention of those particular groups that are always going to have a manipulative tone or some sort of like etching of manipulation involved. So in those ways, certain things, particularly marketing, has to do a lot when it comes to manipulations, and music is one of the most heavily marketed things. So, I mean, in those ways, yeah. So, does it check a certain box that says, yeah, hey, this is interesting, this is helpful, this is what this group likes? Great. Then we're gonna find a way to have as much of those particular like cues in the content as possible. Then we're gonna push an agenda-driven media push or some sort of thing. So we're going to get involved in a music or a TV show or on the radio a lot. And then finally, they're going to try and find ways of making it cheaper so that way more people can have access to it. How do they do that? Well, they get lots of people to sponsor a lot of content that involves that particular music or genre, and that further pushes it as an overall medium that's more recognized mainstream, which is then able to get more people to like, more people to watch, and more people to get involved. And then from there, they basically take those things and just continue the process over and over and over again. To me, that's the way in which they manipulate things, and they all starts by twisting some sort of specific group's idea about themselves, about an identity, and making it involved in the music that they're trying to produce.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes whether they tweak it or they encourage certain ideals too.
Yeah.
Aren't there like plenty of like, music videos which play on stereotypes?
Mm-hmm. All the time.
All of them are good.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they're all good. I wouldn't say many, hardly. Oh, I don't know. Good is a weird thing. It's a big.
Good is a perspective-based term too.
It's more gray. I mean, I like to think music tries to say there's black and white, but everything lives in some form of gray. And I think that when it comes to the expression of this, I think it's kind of important to be able to understand the difference. Thank you, Matt. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, in the future, if you guys are interested in us breaking this into chapters, let us know. Send us a message in the comments right now or in the future, or send us an email if you'd like us to chapter our episodes. So that way, if you guys need to cut early, you guys can still see the content later down the road.
I can figure out how to do that later.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, like, what do you have any examples of how you think media might be using music to manipulate anybody?
Let's see. Definitely getting into people's head. Like the amount of jingles that remain in my head, despite how long it's been since I've watched a commercial, like a legitimate TV commercial. Like there's some jingles like da 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 da. Everybody remembers that one.
I will never ever touch McDonald's.
Or like do 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 do. Like.
What's that
There are
from?
so many jingles that people use to get into your head to kind of just make you remember who or what they are. And that's one way to influence. Because it's like, you just automatically associate whatever that sound is with whatever the heck it is. Unless you've trained yourself to kind of get out of it.
Yeah.
So that's part of the thing, especially if it's so ingrained that it just becomes a part of whatever you do in your daily life. Like I like to hum a lot and make random jingles. If I don't pay attention to the sounds I'm making, all of a sudden I will go straight to Jingle Bells. The tune will follow Jingle Bells if I'm not paying attention to myself. And it's so weird, and it happens at the most inopportune of times. Like I'll do it and it's June and it's like, what are you doing? It's the middle of summer. It's not Christmas.
I want to be Christmas.
I want it to be Christmas. It's actually cooler because it's hot as heck.
Hey, that's a way to trick the mind. I mean, like, I definitely do that a lot. Oh my god. I don't know how many times like I'll just be like driving somewhere and I'll just be like humming along and I'll like suddenly get to
Mhm.
like Johnny Cash's prison Folsom Prison Blues and I'll just be humming that like out of
It just,
nowhere for no reason.
hmm
Just it's
especially,
stuck
yeah,
inside.
yeah, it just gets stuck. Like one instance will get you absolutely screwed. There are so many times that I've trolled my friends
Mhm.
because they've been playing a song for so long, and I'll just hum one little bar of it, and it's
Mhm.
now stuck in their head for the entire day.
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
All right.
I need my sanity. Don't do this to me.
But yeah, definitely getting songs stuck in your head. Sometimes it's fine, other times makes you want to scream and curse and murder.
No murder, no curse.
That's why you also have like people raging about overrated songs too,
Mhm.
because it's so overplayed and whatnot. It just makes some people just straight up, as soon as they hear an overplayed song, hatred. Just straight up hatred. Oh,
Alrighty then. Well, do you want to get to the next song on the list?
yeah. As soon as I can click around. Boom, ba-dum, boom, boom. All right, that was uh-huh. Ba, ba-da, ba, ba-da-da.
Okay.
E-
Clearly, I don't like Sinatra at all. Not at all. Not even a little
No,
bit.
absolutely not.
I love Sinatra so much.
Absolutely not. Don't kid yourselves, guys.
I can lip sync Frank Sinatra a little bit. I sing it a lot in the
All
car.
right. How does music affect someone medically?
Well, I've been talking quite a bit. Rose, would you like to take this one?
Sure. So, obviously, we mentioned the sleep things earlier
Hmm.
a lot.
Oh yeah.
Isn't there, let's see, I think it can also affect one's blood flow depending on how
Hmm.
soothing or how stressful it is. Like, obviously, if you're more stressed, it'll be a bit more smoother, I believe.
Hmm. Yeah.
More
Well,
flowy,
like,
more smooth,
well, I mean,
more
you'll be like
pleasant.
if you're like if you are stressed, you'll have high blood pressure, and if you're
Uh-huh.
more relaxed, you'll lower your blood pressure, which
Yeah.
can if you're an older person or maybe you have a health issue that can be medically helpful. If you have a condition.
There's this horrible story that I remember from a
Oh my
decade
god.
ago that I could tell you after.
All right, after.
Yeah.
No horrible stories. We just heard Sinatra.
It's
Come on.
it's not even horrible as in like horrifying, but it's like one of the most embarrassing things.
Okay, definitely after. Definitely after. I want to hear it
Yeah.
now. It's embarrassing. It
But
sounds
yeah,
fun.
so like blood flow, sleeping. Do you know anything else?
Oh yeah, sure. Obviously, if you are regulating your blood flow, what else are you also regulating? Well, if you're a woman, your menstrual period can be less intense. If you're listening to some what they call easy listening music, which is
Oh,
definitely
that would
like
be good to
Frank
know.
Sinatra or good old Dean. Either one of those particular artists can the easy listening type genre can definitely help with those things. Also, if you ever been to the dentist, have you ever had anxiety? You may be like I don't really want to go to the dentist. It's gonna hurt my teeth. Oh no. You can listen
when they poke at your gums.
Oh yeah. You can listen to some music along those particular lines, or classical music perhaps, and you can get actually calm and more soothed, and that effect will actually cause a reduction in your overall pain.
Is that why for the music in the waiting rooms?
Yeah, actually, there's a fairly often thing that's associated typically with any sort of high stress environments where if possible they like to pump in music. It's also the reason why some elevators have music, particularly in offices.
I was just about to ask about those too.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some examples of how that can affect. Also, typically speaking, there is a correlation between. Although I could have said this earlier in another question, it's kind of like I think it's more prudent here. If you were in a positive state of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the body is more likely to, process more readily. It means your digestive system is going to be more, in line with its natural processes. If you're stressed out, then you might, be all straining and things might not be working 100%. Music can affect those particular things to help make those processes go more smoothly and more easily. I mean, so many people get stressed out over the littlest details in life, and sometimes just simply adding music to your routine can really have a huge benefit on those particular practices, and those can have some seriously advantageous medical benefits down the road. So, I mean, I would highly encourage, if you like to keep your hair, I am not kidding. If you like to keep your hair, listen to some jazz or some blues, something with a melodic tempo. Oh my God.
How does that work?
Supposedly, and this is like not 100%, but supposedly, if you listen to something that has kind of like a fluttering kind of like a tempo or rhythm to it, it's supposed to stimulate certain follicles that help with the growth of fingernails and hair.
Interesting. Sounds like a cat spur.
Yeah. It's kind of strange. And if anyone's interested, I'll pull up the study for you guys and send it to you guys because it's kind of interesting. But it's really long, and so it's not really something I want to cover necessarily on the show. But I'm happy to share the information if you guys care. And if you don't care, then think about this: musical Rogaine.
Musical what now?
Musical Rogaine. It's a hair supplement for people who are going bald. Well, if you're already bald, you're kind of fucked. But if you don't want to be bald, that's a different thing altogether. So.
Okay, that's an interesting fun fact if it happens to be a fact.
It is a fact. I wouldn't say it unless I was confident. Alrighty then. What's the next one?
Alright, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be funny. Go from Sinatra to this.
Yep, this is a drastic change. Ooh, darkness. Na, 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 na. Well, that was a drastic change, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. DMX, man.
To say the least.
I guess. Yeah, no, so the question is, what, question 11?
Mm-hmm. Okay. How can using music, or even leaving music out, affect movies, stories, and other scenarios?
Oh my gosh, so much. I mean, so basically when you leave something out, there is a context that is left to the viewer to try and figure out. And so, sometimes when you leave music out of something, then you're giving the scene or scenario greater depth. Sometimes, if you don't have music, you're losing some of that depth. And so it's all about how a person creates and strings together a narrative, as how it impacts certain things. And so, at least in my particular experience, like when discussing something like, say, like DMX, for instance, DMX has been used in a whole bunch of random media over the years. But I think that like when it was featured in Deadpool, when it particularly showcased him kind of like going into an action kind of step, it kind of like it showcased like the way in which music can be used effectively to tell a story that has absolutely nothing to do with the artist, but just the content of the words of the music. And another scenarios that would never work. And so, I mean, could you imagine like someone like just like walking out of a grocery store, and pretending he's badass into a DMX song? It would be ridiculous.
It'd look funny.
It would look funny, but it wouldn't be taken seriously in comparison to the action scene in Deadpool. So, like, to me, how music is used, whether it's left out or left in, can completely affect the way in which a story is presenting information, and can create a whole side set of feelings and situations to add to other scenarios. So it's kind of interesting in that way.
Oh yeah, definitely depending on how the director works with it too. Because there are some scenes that work incredibly well with music, no sound from the actors or the set or whatever. And it just brings a whole nother feeling to it, such as with dancing scenes.
Like what
Obviously
scene?
you can't
Like what movie, what scene are you thinking of exactly?
the one that comes to mind is typically ballroom dancing scenes, where you've got just the main focus on the main couple who's dancing, and it's just you hear the music, and it's this grand, elegant music, especially if it's ballroom dancing for one.
I'm like in my head right now. I'm just thinking Beauty and the Beast, like the live action
Yeah,
one.
that's one of the main ones. Like you think this grandiose type of scenario, it's elegant, it's graceful, it's beautiful.
Orchestral.
Yeah, orchestral, that too. And then you've got other scenarios like, so I think there was this racing scene in like Ready Player One, where they completely dropped the music entirely. All you could hear was the sounds of the race, whether that was the cars crashing, cars being, crushed, the coins scattering, the players' lives, going away. And it just added to the scene because you didn't hear the music. You were hearing what was happening during the race, which made it kind of more intense for me.
Okay.
Because I couldn't take away any of the sounds because there wasn't any music covering it. All I heard was the sound, which, if you close your eyes, you're right in there.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, I have nothing else to say to this, but if the chat has anything to say, feel free to leave a comment.
Hey, all the comments. Hopefully. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
What do we want to do now? We have...
Oh, I can see that. I think let's go ahead and go to 13 and 16.
Number 13?
Yeah, and then
Okay,
13,
let me
and we'll
look
go to
at that
16.
one. Okay, this one. Just wanted to make sure I got the right ones. Bunk. Bunk.
Well, all our work, the faster my money goes. I did shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, rattle, and roll. You won't do right, I don't know. Shake, rattle, and roll. Wait. Hey, boy. Ready to stop. Well, all right. Yeah, get it,
Bunk. And
It's your
bunk.
turn. Gotta love it.
Alright. What genres of music impacted the cultural landscape of the United States the most?
Oh my gosh. The most, I'd have to say probably blues and jazz like music probably impacted the most. I mean, I don't think that, I mean, obviously you wouldn't get rhythm and blues, which is basically rock and roll, without blues. I don't think that you'd get it without jazz. I think folk music is really important too. Folk music kind of is the reason why I kind of have country, and without rock and roll, you don't get what is considered modern country today. I also think that pop music kind of owes a lot to some of the bigger bands of the early 30s and 40s. But oh my god, yeah, no, I would say that those are probably the most important when it comes to the genres, just because they're like the roots of most modern music, at least in the West today.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was curious as to what you would answer for this question because as far as I'm concerned, the United States is more of a cultural melting pot
Yeah.
of cultures. So it's like that's how I was taught, and I haven't heard too much differently.
Oh my god, yeah, no, I years ago I took a history of rock and roll class, which basically taught me about music in America from about like the early 20s to modern day, and I learned a whole bunch of stuff from that particular class, and it kind of inspired me down a road of music that I am continuing. I'm still on. But yeah, no, I mean honestly, when it comes to the United States, music is kind of something that we have a little sampling from just about every culture in the world has had some impact in the way in which music is developed. But certain musical forms are more prevalent because they're easier to record or they're easier to set up, and so you kind of have these band kind of ideas that really started to foster around the roughly around the 30s and the 40s, because people didn't really have jobs. I mean, there was a lot of people who were desperate. And so, you know, when people are desperate, I mean, sometimes music is one of the things that can kind of pop out from that. And so you get some of the most amazing blues and some of the most amazing, well, eventually rock performances that all have their roots from those particular periods. And so, I mean, I have to say this too, because I think this is something that is understood but maybe not acknowledged. African Americans are some of the most ingenious individuals, you know, culturally as a group. In comparison to other Americans that I've seen, I'm so impressed by the musical talent that comes from that particular demographic, and I think not enough respect is shown to people that work so diligently and so hard on their particular crafts. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people have been robbed when it comes to, you know, their talents just because of the color of their skin. And so it's like, it's just ridiculous. I firmly believe all people are equal in those regards, and I think it's overdue that people need to, at least certain people need to recognize the talents of the past and make them more well known, because I don't think that many people know, you know, even half of the people that I would want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
like so, talents and hard work kind of come from anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, I mean, think about all the different genres that exist, and think about all the different types of artists that are involved. You know, and how many of those artists are actually get recognized? You know, it seems predominantly an overwhelming majority, at least in the past, were like white people, and when really they were just stealing songs and ideas from other groups. So it's like, I think it's time to call it what you see it, you know.
Speaking of, is it?
Yes, 16 I think is probably the thing we're going to jump to. We have 23 things that are going to be talked about. We're going to jump around a little bit, probably go over about 10-15 minutes, because there's a couple things I want to make sure we talk about before we go. Hope that's okay, and if not, then, you know.
Thank you for staying with us.
Yeah, thank you for staying with us.
Make sure you take good care of yourselves. If you need to go to bed, go to bed.
Yeah.
Health is more important.
It is. Even though I don't follow my advice. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do.
How do modern artists imitate, mimic, or borrow aspects from past artists or genres? What the? Are you okay?
Yeah, I forgot that was, I just said 16 and then I forgot. Well, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Elvis Presley is an example of probably the most prolific artist, like when it came to like his music and his like stuff. But what a lot of people don't know is that he only ever wrote one song. Every other one song out of like, I don't know, hundreds that were potentially sung and across this various, you know, movies and other, you know, records and stuff. One song, and it did very poorly.
Oh.
Yeah. He actually he would often take music from we'll say African American artists. I do not know the exact circumstance of all of the particular exchanges. Sometimes he paid for the rights to those particular songs. Sometimes he just straight up took them.
Oh.
And sometimes he wasn't even like, I don't know if he himself 100% was aware of the exact nature of it all the time, but I think at some point you have to go, okay, where are these coming from? You know,
You would think.
you would think so.
You would hope.
But yeah, I mean, artists mimic other artists all the time. I don't know how many pop artists have imitated Michael Jackson or Madonna. I don't know how many people who have, you know, who imitated the Beatles. I mean, just a small group of people who imitated the Beatles, you know, I mean, that are fairly well known. There's like The Who.
Reminds me of another Got Talent or X Factor episode.
You like to watch those.
Yeah, they're fun.
What's it remind you of, though? What happened?
There was this one person who was a big Lady Gaga fan.
Oh.
And, you know, X Factor, those types of shows are about, you know, your own voice and what you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
According to one of the judges, it felt more like she was listening to Lady Gaga than the actual contestant.
I mean, in one way, that's a good thing.
One way.
In one way, it's a good thing.
But on the other hand, it's just like, if you're gonna make it big, you kind of gotta give your own sound, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Some unique flair. You can't just be a total copycat, I don't think.
No.
I don't know how successful that really is. Like, sometimes it works. Depending on how you market it.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a voice acting gig.
Definitely. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
How about we jump to number 20?
Okay. Bunk. This one actually has a clip.
Indeed.
Bunk.
Okay.
Alright.
So, that was the Beatles' Help. I could not, in good conscience, end the show without having at least a couple performers, and this is one of them. Beatles are one of my favorite bands of all time. Yes. How important is message in music? Super huge. It's how that particular generation is able to convey some of their thoughts and feelings about their lives to other people. It's a way
like the example you mentioned with the Vietnam War and the protest songs?
Yes, that's definitely one of the ways. I think that it's also important to understand that sometimes music has a lesson that they're trying to impart. You know, like for instance, in the song "Help" by the Beatles, you know, they're talking about how, you know, when they were younger, they didn't really care. It wasn't really like something that they felt like they needed anybody to really help them out with anything. And as they get older, they realize that they need more people around, and that they need people to help them, because they've recognized that as a community, you know, you are stronger together than you are apart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the message of that particular song. And I think that those kinds of things are very helpful because it helps give certain people perspective. And the more perspective you have, I think ultimately the better, you know, you're gonna be in life. Because if you can look at something with a wide view, and you can kind of take it all in, and you're open to all things, then you're gonna have an overall better life. And I think that you're gonna have less conflict. But I think the more closed-minded you are, the more assuming I know everything, I know what's best, it's the more you're going to butt heads with people, and the more you're going to feud and fight. And so it's really important that those particular messages are heard if possible and understood if possible, because it gives you a better chance of being able to have a wider lens.
Mm-hmm. Especially since some messages are pretty darn subtle.
Yeah, some messages.
There's some songs where the messages are right there, right there. If you see it, I don't know how you don't see it.
I mean, it's in the first 4 letters of the song.
Help!
Help!
So yeah, there are some songs where it's like, just right there.
Mm.
It's right there, right for the picking. And then there are some songs where it's so subtle, it's like, how deep did you have to dig for that? And is that actually what they meant?
Yeah, I mean, or like horrible, like you think, so they say something that they don't really say. Like there's this like Japanese type of music that's often portrayed in anime, and I don't know how many white people have seen these animes and then they think they're saying something that they're not. Oh
It's
my God.
hilarious too for
So
some of the
funny.
TikTok videos too, because they'll use like certain clips,
Uh-huh.
but then when you actually go to find the music,
Mhm.
the lyrics are like, what the heck? Like, pardon?
there's a whole thing on YouTube that oh God, I wish I could share it. I can't. But moving on. All right, so the next question I want us to jump to is 22.
22.
And then obviously 23 will be the one we end on.
That's fair. Da, 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 ba, ba, nya. Bonk,
Bonk.
bonk. How important is language in regards to genre? Holy crap, I nearly closed the wrong window.
Oh no.
Alright, we're good.
Okay. I'm gonna go with it's not very important at all. I mean, I appreciate and like a ridiculous amount of music. You could say I have probably the most eclectic taste of music of any person that you've probably ever met. I like almost everything when it comes to genres, and there's so much that I appreciate. And I think that
Well, that's good.
yeah, and I think that like I don't need to understand the language to understand the tones that are being conveyed. And so like in that particular last song by Selena, you can tell it's a love song. It's a ballad kind of like song, and you can tell by the melody, the harmonies, and things like that. So I think that you can get the gist behind something and you can appreciate it for what it is. Now, if you understand the language, then it gives you an even deeper appreciation for the music. But I don't think it's necessary to necessarily like or understand at least the basics of a song or a genre.
Granted, sometimes there are some translations that make you go, what the heck? Like, it sounds nice, and then you get the translation, and it's like, what did they just say?
Yeah, I can think of a song that, you know what, I'll just say it right now. I'm a huge fan of Death Note, and oh my God, as you probably couldn't have told from the first song that was on the list, wonder where that came from. But there's another song that's in the series, and oh my God, once I found out the lyrics, I was like, damn, I like this song, but oh my God, the words are scary.
Like, it sounded fine until you realize.
Exactly what it's trying to say.
So sometimes people use language in order to, especially different languages, in order to disguise exactly what's being said.
Yeah, or maybe they're not even
Depending
trying
on people's knowledge of that language.
Well, maybe they're not even trying to disguise it. They're just trying to they're trying to say it, but like we are just too stupid to realize what we actually are trying to say.
Sometimes, like, there are some people, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. You do realize what it means, right? No, what does it mean? You're not gonna like it afterward. No, just tell me. You're not gonna like it. Tell me. You're not gonna like it. Tell me. Tells them. Why did you tell me? I told you. It's like, you're dumb. I told you wouldn't like it, but you did. Sometimes it's like, it sounds good, and then when you actually learn it, sometimes you wish you never learned it at all.
Yeah. Do you have an example of something like that?
There's a couple of Vocaloid songs up there. I haven't listened to Vocaloid in like a decade, or 5 years minimum. I haven't listened to a couple of Vocaloid songs in like 5 years, but when I did, there were a couple of songs where I was in love with the beat, I was in love with the rhythm, I was in love with how it sounded, and then I looked at the translations and I'm like, why did I look that up?
I have ruined this for myself.
Pretty much. Like, there was this one popular song, very good, very nice sounding, very poppy, very energetic and whatnot. But then I always listened to lyric videos and whatnot, so that I could actually like read the romanji and crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go to the music video, the visuals,
Uh-oh.
and then they'd have the English translation. And then I realized that a lot of the songs, a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
are some of the darkest things. And I'm just like, why did I do this to myself?
You're like, I could have been blissfully ignorant. Why?
Like, I'm happy. Like, after the fact, I'm happy. During the fact, why?
Like, I can just forget this. I can forget this.
Mhm.
Damn it! No, I can't. I'm trying.
No, you can't.
I'm trying. Damn it! I can't get out of my head.
So, like, for the most part, language is just another set of words to use. Sometimes they sound better, sometimes they sound worse, sometimes they can get expressions across more fluently than sometimes English does, because English is fucked.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
So, in regards to those, I guess you could say that's kind of important depending on what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, yeah, definitely depending on the tone, the visuals especially, you can get the gist of it.
Okay. Well,
Anyway.
let's move on to question 23 and wrap up the night.
Funk. To the audience, if you could only listen to one genre of music for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Yes. What would it be and why? I'd like to hear you guys' responses finally. Somebody please respond to this. I think that, there's not enough people talking back when it comes to things. And so, I'd really appreciate you guys' support, and I'd like to hear back from you guys. So please answer these questions, email us the show with your responses, or leave it in the comments below under the channel. Hopefully you liked today's episode. I worked really hard on it. Rose really worked really hard on it. And hopefully the copyright strikes that are hit initially are just just for show, right? And for those whom are watching it in the future, understand that the music will not be there. But if you'd like to, the links will be in the description below. This has been Justin and Rose, and we'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Have a good night, and we'll be playing you out with some good old Freddie Mercury, Queen.
We bid you adieu.